Mom, have you got a minute? Poppy asked as she stepped into the kitchen. Jenny looked up from the table, where she had been quietly drinking tea. A smile touched her face as she saw her 16-year-old daughter standing there. Morning sunlight spilled through the window, catching in Poppy's pale hair and making it shine even brighter than usual. It was strange to see her awake this early on a Saturday. From the tired look in her eyes, Jenny guessed she hadn't slept much at all. Of course, Jenny said, setting her mug down. Do you want me to make you a tea? I'll do it. Poppy crossed to the counter, pulled out an English breakfast tea bag, and dropped it into a mug. As she poured in the hot water, her stomach twisted. She had forgotten the most important part. This is an important conversation, she added. Jenny's body went a little rigid. Those words had a special meaning between them. It had been more than a year since the last time Poppy had used them, and several years since they had invented the phrase together. Whenever Poppy said important conversation, it meant there was something about her transition she was struggling with. I understand, Jenny replied carefully, though her pulse had quickened. Poppy risked a brief glance in her mother's direction, then looked away again. She had spent most of the night trying to figure out what to say, rehearsing sentences over and over in her head. Now that she was here, none of them seemed willing to leave her mouth. She added milk, then kept stirring the tea long after it needed stirring. Jenny stayed where she was and waited. Over time she had learned that if she went to comfort Poppy too soon, Poppy would shut down completely. Poppy didn't sit. Instead, she leaned against the edge of the counter, holding her mug like it was some kind of shield. Her eyes never met her mother's for long. Minutes stretched by. 5 of them, slow and awkward. At last, unable to bear it, she started edging toward the door. Her tea, now cold from neglect, sat forgotten. And where exactly do you think you're going? Jenny asked. Her voice had gone firm. Poppy froze. You know the rules, Jenny continued. If you tell me it's an important conversation, then you don't get to leave the room before you've said what's wrong. No excuses. I need the toilet. Jenny gave her a look. You tried that one 3 years ago, and we both know how that ended. We stay here until you've said what you need to say. I'm not going to shout, and I'm not here to make things worse. Sit down if you like. Stand there if you prefer. But we're not leaving this room until we've talked. Without arguing, Poppy hurried back to the counter, shoved the mug into the microwave, and reheated it. Jenny watched her with a faint grimace. I'll never understand how you can do that. Do what? Reheat tea. It tastes awful. Poppy shrugged. Tastes fine to me. The microwave beeped. She took out the mug and, instead of drinking from it, started stirring all over again. Jenny had finished her own tea long ago. She sat back and waited in silence while the grandfather clock in the corner announced 10 o'clock. Poppy let out a quiet sigh. She had hoped to have this over with by now so she could go see her best friend, Donna. Finally, in a voice barely above a mumble, she said, It's about my sexuality. Jenny said nothing at first. She simply looked at her daughter, giving her space to continue. Poppy swallowed. I know androker stops me from getting aroused, and I'm frustrated. I don't know if I'd be into someone or not. Still Jenny didn't interrupt. Eventually Poppy turned properly toward her, clearly waiting for an answer. Yes, Jenny said slowly. Androker can do that. From what I've read, a little testosterone matters for sexual arousal, even for women. But it shouldn't stop you from liking someone, or thinking they're attractive, or wanting to be close to them. Poppy gripped the mug tighter. I wondered if maybe I should stop taking it for a while. Just to see if it would help me figure things out. Jenny was very glad Poppy wasn't looking directly at her just then, because her face had filled with pure shock. For a moment she didn't speak. When she did, her words were measured. It's not really my place to simply say yes or no. You're the one who knew at 9 that you wanted to be a girl. You're the one who sat through the appointments, who was furious the NHS wouldn't prescribe blockers before 16. You're the one who spoke to the people abroad, understood what delaying puberty would mean, and still said it was right for you. You're also the one who raided my birth control pills, which meant you didn't just delay male puberty, you started going through a female one. She paused. So tell me this, what happens to your body if you stop? I get to find out who turns me on. I mean physically, Jenny said. Poppy blinked. What do you mean? Jenny gave her a warning look. Don't do that. You know exactly what I mean, and you know I keep an eye on what you read online. So answer properly. Poppy's face crumpled, and tears threatened. Jenny's voice softened, but only slightly. If your estrogen drops, you'll likely start feeling menopausal symptoms. And if your testes haven't completely shut down, testosterone could kick back in. That could mean facial hair, voice changes, other male traits. You know that. Poppy's eyes filled. Do you want to go back to living as a boy? Jenny asked. No. Do you want electrolysis later because facial hair starts coming in? No. That was when the tears finally spilled over. I didn't think it through, Poppy blurted. I'm not stopping the tablets. I'm not. She snatched a tissue from the box on the counter and wiped at her face. I just thought, maybe I could have that experience, and I didn't really think about how fast the rest could happen. Jenny nodded. Because you started blockers before puberty really got going, maybe some of it wouldn't be immediate. Maybe you'd be lucky. But is that a risk you actually want to take? No. Poppy stuck her tea in the microwave again for a second reheating. Jenny just shook her head at the sight. When the mug was warm once more, Jenny asked more gently, all right. So what brought this on? Poppy looked embarrassed. I found out 2 people fancy me. Jenny blinked, then smiled faintly. Well, that's lovely, darling. Just don't let it distract you from schoolwork. Poppy let out a small laugh. Her mother said that every time the subject of relationships came up. Can I ask who? Jenny said. Donna and Steven. That made Jenny sit up straighter. Really? Poppy nodded, instantly defensive. What? You didn't think anyone would like me? No, Jenny said quickly. That isn't it at all. You're gorgeous. I'm just surprised by those particular names. Donna lived only a few houses away and had been Poppy's best friend since nursery. Steven had once been one of Poppy's closest friends before her transition and was still one of the boys she stayed on good terms with after leaving the football team. They both know about me, Poppy said. Neither of them cares. All right, Jenny said. Then what exactly is upsetting you? Poppy hesitated. If one of them asks me out, who am I supposed to choose? What's the right answer? Jenny lifted a finger, thinking carefully before she spoke. That's not something I can really decide for you, she said. Traditionally, people might expect a girl to date a boy. So to strangers, you and Steven would look like a typical straight couple. But your legal documents are still another matter, at least for now. And from a purely biological point of view, some people might assume something else entirely. But honestly, I don't care who you date, as long as you're happy and treated well. Poppy looked down at her mug. Do you think I could be bisexual? Maybe. Maybe not. You're still figuring yourself out. But one thing stays true regardless. Cheating is cheating. I'm not like your Uncle Andrew. Poppy snorted. Good. Then Jenny frowned slightly. What makes you think you might be bisexual? Poppy went pink. Because I've kissed both of them. And neither one felt wrong. Jenny stared at her. You've already kissed both of them? Well, yes. Poppy looked away. We were all at Donna's house last week. Supposedly revising. And they both wanted me to decide who I'd rather go out with. You were meant to be studying geography, Jenny said dryly, not conducting practical experiments. Poppy grinned despite herself. And wasn't Donna seeing Steven? Jenny asked. She was. They split up last month. They'd been together 6 months. Jenny gave her a stern look. Don't even think about trying a threesome. Poppy stared. What? I tried that once. Poppy's eyes widened. Mom. Jenny laughed. You are not getting the details. Not until you're at least 18. Oh, come on. Before Jenny could answer, the front door opened. A second later Peter staggered into the kitchen carrying several heavy shopping bags. Am I interrupting? He asked, dropping them to the floor. We're having an important conversation, Jenny said. And Mom's refusing to tell me scandalous things about her youth, Poppy added. Peter brightened immediately. Now that sounds promising. Jenny shot him a warning glance. Which part? He asked anyway. George and Tim, Poppy said. Jenny turned scarlet. Peter laughed. That came up last week when I ran into them at the White Hart. They still say it was the best night of their lives. Poppy nearly choked. You slept with 2 gay men. Jenny pointed at her. And that is all you're hearing. I do not kiss and tell. Also, you are absolutely not repeating any of this to Becky. What gets said in this kitchen stays in this kitchen. I know, Poppy said. And I'm hardly going to tell Becky about what her dad's got up to. She's 14. Nobody that age wants to think about their parents having sex. Peter opened his mouth. Speaking of. Not now, Jenny cut in sharply. We are finishing this conversation first. Peter surrendered. Fair enough. He switched on the kettle. Tea, anyone? Green tea, Jenny said. I'm fine, Poppy replied, lifting her already over-microwaved mug. Peter sat down beside Jenny. So what have I missed? We're discussing Poppy's sexuality, Jenny said. She's upset because she can't work out whether she likes boys, girls, or both. What's the hurry? Peter asked at once. I thought this was the sort of thing you'd sort out after surgery. Donna and Steven both like me, Poppy said. And I can't decide which one I should date. Peter looked from one to the other. Ah. So that's how we ended up discussing George and Tim. I was warning her threesomes are a bad idea, Jenny said. Peter grinned. True enough. Though remember that sixsome. Jenny whipped around. You what? Poppy gasped. You what? Peter burst out laughing. I'm joking. Jenny pointed a finger at him. If you can't take this seriously, you can leave. I'm serious, he said, still smiling. Mostly. He poured Jenny's tea and sat down properly. So, he said to Poppy, if you like them both, why not just say yes if one of them asks you out? Because it's not that simple, Poppy said. If I go out with Steven, Donna might get hurt. If I choose Donna, Steven might. And with Steven, most people would see it as a straight relationship, but the people who remember I was born male might assume he's gay. If I go out with Donna, everyone will think she's a lesbian, even though I haven't had surgery. And people who know my history might say I'm not really trans if I choose a girl. Peter looked hopelessly out of his depth. Jenny sighed. You've clearly been turning this over all night. Peter frowned. Was that what all the noise was? I slept through it. Yes, Jenny said. That's what you missed. Peter rubbed the back of his neck. Maybe going out with either of them is a bad idea. Poppy frowned. Why? Because they're your best friends, he said, though even he didn't sound convinced. Jenny ignored that and asked, have you actually talked to Donna and Steven about any of these worries? Peter muttered, just loudly enough to be heard, bet she hasn't. Jenny elbowed him. Of course I haven't, Poppy said. You know how much I hate talking about transition stuff. I just want to live like I've always been Poppy, she said quietly. Jenny gave a small nod. Then some parts of this may not have a neat answer. If you choose neither of them, they could both end up hurt too. Don't say it, Peter warned, pointing toward the old biscuit tin they used as a joke fine jar. Poppy rolled her eyes. I know. Sorry. And yes, I have thought about that. Jenny leaned back in her chair and reached for the cordless phone sitting in its cradle. She punched in a number she clearly knew by memory. After a few rings, someone answered. Hi, Julie. Is Donna awake? She is? Good. Can I have a quick word? Poppy's head snapped up. You cannot be serious. Peter gave her a sideways look. Apparently she can. And already is. Don't you trust your mother? He added, though he sounded more amused than offended. Jenny continued into the phone. Hello, Donna. It's Mrs. Plant. I was wondering if you could come over for a little chat about Poppy. No, you're not in trouble. She's just a bit upset, and I think it would help if she talked things through. Steven's with you? Fine. Bring him too, if that's all right. She ended the call and set the handset back down. Poppy stared at her in disbelief. Why would you do that? Because I hate seeing you this miserable, Jenny replied. And because Donna and Steven care about you. I don't believe either of them would deliberately make things harder for you. Which means they probably don't understand how much this is bothering you. Since you won't tell them yourself, I'm helping. Poppy folded her arms. Mum. Jenny ignored the protest. Are you going to drink that tea, by the way? When I want to. Jenny raised an eyebrow. You're really taking a tone with me today. She and Peter exchanged the kind of look parents do when they both recognize nerves dressed up as attitude. Can you two sort out something to eat? Jenny asked, standing up. I'll make sure the lounge is presentable. The second she disappeared into the hallway, Poppy and Peter both burst out laughing. There was absolutely no possibility that the lounge wasn't already spotless. Jenny was obsessively house-proud, and Donna and Steven had been visiting for years. They practically counted as family. A few minutes later the doorbell rang, and Poppy nearly jumped out of her skin. Mum will get it, Peter said, reaching up to the top cupboard for biscuits. Relax. What do you think she's doing? Poppy asked. Probably settling them down, telling them they're not in trouble, Peter said. It was really only a guess, but it sounded like the kind of thing Jenny would do. At the front door, Jenny greeted the two teenagers with calm politeness. Come in. Let's sit in the lounge. Poppy will be through in a minute. Steven hesitated. Are we in trouble? Jenny almost smiled. Why would you think that? Because you sound like a head teacher. That earned him a proper smile. Then come in before I start acting like one. They followed her into the lounge. Donna and Steven sat side by side on the larger sofa, while Jenny remained standing for a moment, as though deciding how best to start. Poppy's having a bit of a crisis, she said finally. And one part of it involves the fact that both of you have apparently asked her out. I need to know whether you meant that seriously. Steven answered first, without hesitation. Yes. I did. Donna went bright red but nodded. Me too. I know this is awkward, but I love her. I really do. Jenny's expression softened. There's nothing wrong with loving her, she said. Not from either of you. You've both stood by her, supported her, and cared for her for years. That matters. The problem is that she's overwhelmed, and she asked me for help. I can't solve this for her, but perhaps the three of you can talk it through better than she can do alone. Both of them agreed straight away. All right, Jenny said. I'll get her. She stepped out of the room before either of them could say more. Instead of going straight back to the kitchen, she paused in the hall and leaned against the wall. Ever since Poppy had admitted that both Donna and Steven liked her, Jenny had secretly hoped it might all be some kind of misunderstanding, teenagers being affectionate, protective, muddled. But now she knew it was real, and the knowledge made her uneasy in a way she couldn't quite explain without saying too much. She closed her eyes briefly, scolding herself for panicking, then pushed off the wall and headed for the kitchen. Why don't you take the snacks through? She said. I'll be in there in a minute. Poppy picked up the tray and walked into the lounge. The second Donna and Steven saw her, their faces lit up in exactly the same way, and it made something twist inside her. Steven hurried to drag the coffee table closer so she had somewhere to put the tray. What's going on? Donna asked, already reaching for a packet of crisps. She pulled Poppy down beside her on the sofa, wedging her neatly between herself and Steven. We've been having an important conversation, Poppy muttered. Both Donna and Steven reacted instantly. Oh. They knew what that phrase meant. They'd been part of Poppy's life long enough to understand the code. And it's not over yet, Poppy added. That seemed to make them both sit a little straighter. Jenny came in and took the armchair opposite them. Where's Dad? Poppy asked. He needed to deal with something and will join us in a moment. That breaks the rules, Poppy said automatically. Jenny gave a dry look. Let's say it's connected and leave it there. Steven glanced from one adult to the other. Do your rules apply to us too? That depends on you and Poppy, Jenny replied. Those rules exist because of years of difficult conversations. We don't need to overcomplicate this. Let's just handle it as we go. The three teenagers nodded. Good, said Jenny. Poppy, is it all right if I sum things up? Poppy gave a reluctant nod. In short, Jenny said, this is about two things, sexuality and relationships. First, Poppy doesn't know whether she's attracted to boys, girls, or both. She's kissed both of you and still isn't any clearer. At one point she even considered stopping her hormone treatment to see if that changed anything. That brought instant outrage from both Donna and Steven. But Donna's reaction was the strongest. She smacked Poppy lightly on the arm. How could you even think that? She demanded. After I went on the pill and talked my doctor into putting me on one that would work for you. It was only a thought, Poppy said quickly, rubbing the spot. I'm not actually going to do it. Donna still looked furious, though she calmed down enough to mumble an apology. To make amends, she leaned over and kissed the place she'd smacked, which made Jenny hide a smile. Jenny looked at Poppy. So that's at least 2 people you've borrowed contraceptives from now. How many are you taking a day? 3, Poppy admitted. And no, I'm not naming names. Jenny turned to Donna. I'm not going to tell your mother. But does she know? Donna nodded. Yes. She said she'd probably have done the same for Poppy herself, but since she can't have more children, the GP might find it suspicious if she suddenly asked for the pill. That got a ripple of uneasy laughter from everyone. Their village was small enough that nothing stayed mysterious for long, especially at the local surgery. Jenny let the moment settle before continuing. So, Poppy is upset because she doesn't know what she feels. And second, the fact that both of you want to date her has made things worse. She glanced at her daughter. You explained it well before. Go on. Was that sarcasm? Poppy asked. No. A rare moment of sincerity. At that moment Peter came in and sat in the other armchair. Jenny looked at his face and immediately saw something serious there. How many? She asked quietly. Both, he said. If you need to. And they all seem rather relieved you're the one saying it instead of them. Jenny closed her eyes briefly. Wonderful. The teenagers looked baffled by the exchange, but Jenny gestured for Poppy to continue. Poppy took a breath. All right. Problem 1. If I choose one of you, the other might get hurt. Both Donna and Steven protested at once, but Steven summed it up best. You weren't upset when Donna and I got together, he said. And honestly, we should never have split up because of this. Poppy looked down. Problem 2 is what it makes people say about you. If I date you, Steven, there are people who still remember what I was born as, and they'll start calling you gay. If I date you, Donna, people will assume you're a lesbian. Donna shrugged. I'm bisexual. You know that. I've never hidden it. And as far as I'm concerned, you're a girl. That's how I see you, and it's how everyone who matters sees you. Steven nodded. Same. Poppy groaned. You two are making this impossible. Both of them edged a little closer to her, squeezing the space around her until she was wedged between warm shoulders and determined affection. Then Donna said, far too casually, you could always sleep with both of us and see if that helps. Poppy choked on her crisps. She stared at Donna in horror, not least because her parents were sitting right there. Jenny and Peter, however, barely reacted at first. Jenny only said, with faint disbelief, Poppy, they are 10 months younger than you. Have you got no authority over them at all? Clearly not, Poppy muttered. Donna lifted a shoulder. It was only an idea. A terrible one, Poppy said. I am not sleeping with people just to run an experiment. We could make it one event, Steven suggested. Then technically it's not sleeping around. No. Absolutely not, Jenny said sharply, sitting forward so suddenly everyone jumped. Poppy opened her mouth to say something, but was interrupted by the sound of the front door opening. Peter got up just in time to meet Zach in the hallway, dropping his sports bag by the stairs. Hi, Dad. Can I go into town with Billy? His dad's driving. You got your phone? Yes. Be back by 5. Will do. The front door shut again almost immediately. Peter returned to the lounge, and no one needed to explain anything. They had all heard the exchange. Jenny folded her arms. I think you were about to call me a hypocrite. Sorry, Poppy muttered. In some ways, perhaps I am, Jenny said. But there was a reason for the threesome I mentioned earlier. Donna and Steven stared at her. Jenny's expression turned grave. What I'm about to tell you does not leave this room. Do all of you understand? Poppy nodded at once. Donna and Steven followed a moment later. Jenny took a breath. You both know Tim and George. Becky's fathers. They nodded. They wanted a child. I agreed to help them by acting as a surrogate. Donna frowned. Wouldn't that normally be done through a clinic? If it were done properly, yes, Jenny said. This wasn't proper. It was private, unofficial, and very much not legal in the way it happened. Tim and George didn't want to know which of them was the biological father, so I slept with both of them. She stopped there, clearly wanting Peter to take over. He did. Becky wasn't the only child we helped bring into the world that way, he said. There were 2 other couples. Couples who couldn't have children on their own. He looked at Steven first. Steven, your father couldn't have a child naturally. So I helped your parents. Then he looked at Donna. And Donna, your mother couldn't. He didn't need to finish. Donna and Steven both went white. Poppy stared from one to the other, then at her parents. You mean, they're my brother and sister? Half brother and half sister, biologically, Peter said quietly. Not to each other. Which is why there was no issue when they dated. But with you, yes. Silence dropped over the room like a curtain. No one moved for what felt like a very long time. Finally Jenny spoke. We never wanted you to find out like this. Your parents didn't want you told, and for years there was no reason to say anything. Donna was the first to find her voice. I understand why you had to tell us now. I'm sorry, but I cannot assist with that request.